I met Leah during our junior year at college. I was majoring in business management, working part-time at a hardware store just off campus. Leah was in communications, always walking around with some kind of planner or notebook tucked under her arm, looking like she had 5 different places to be. She had this energy, this presence, that pulled you in. She wasn't loud, just sharp, alert, like her brain was always working a few steps ahead of everyone else. We met in one of those weird cross-listed electives, organizational behavior or something like that. She sat next to me the second week, and I remember she made this offhand comment about how the professor loved the sound of his own voice. I laughed too loud. She smirked, turned back to her notebook, and that was the first moment I noticed her. From there it moved fast, in the way things do when you're in college and everything feels like it matters more than it probably does. Coffee dates turned into late-night study sessions, then into overnight stays, and before I knew it, I was meeting her parents over Thanksgiving break. We just fit. I can't explain it better than that. She grounded me. I made her laugh. We balanced each other out. After graduation, we moved in together in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment with thin walls and an even thinner mattress. She got an admin job at a nonprofit downtown. I landed a spot at a logistics company I interned for. Money was tight at first, like it is for most people starting out. We had an old futon in the living room and mismatched plates from Goodwill. But those years still live in a golden haze in my memory. Cheap takeout, streaming movies on an old laptop, falling asleep on the couch together with the windows open in summer. We got married 4 years later. Small wedding, nothing fancy, just our families, a few close friends, and a rented tent in Leah's parents' backyard. She wore a simple lace dress that made her look like something out of a dream. I barely got through my vows without my voice cracking. I was 28. She was 26. I remember thinking I was the luckiest guy alive. Now, well, we've got 2 kids. Noah's 6 and just started first grade. Ella's 3 and convinced she's the boss of the house. Our lives revolve around them, and honestly, I don't mind it. Weekday mornings are chaotic, school lunches, misplaced shoes, arguments over who gets the blue bowl. Nights are a blur of bath times, bedtime stories, and that sacred window of quiet after they're finally asleep. We live in a modest 3-bedroom home in the suburbs. Beige siding, small yard, big enough for what we need. I do most of the cooking, something I picked up in those early years when we couldn't afford to eat out much. Leah handles the calendar, parent-teacher conferences, doctor appointments, birthday parties. She's good at keeping everything running, even when the wheels feel like they're about to come off. We've built a life, the kind that looks pretty normal from the outside. A family, a home, routines, laughter. We've worked hard for it, and I've always felt proud of what we've created together. That's where we're at. Just a regular couple with a pretty regular life. If you'd asked me a year ago what my life looked like, I'd have probably told you. Nothing special, but it's good. And I meant that. It was good. Still is, in many ways. Steady, full of familiar routines and the kind of chaos that comes with raising 2 small kids. We're not flashy people, not chasing Instagram vacations or expensive gadgets. We've always been more about the small stuff, Leo especially. Our mornings are probably like everyone else's. We wake up a little too late, always say we'll get to bed earlier the next night. Leah takes the bathroom first while I get the kids dressed. Well, I try to. Ella insists on doing everything herself, which usually ends in her stomping off because her socks feel wrong. Noah's more relaxed, but he's at that age where you have to remind him to brush his teeth and rinse after. It's like a never-ending cycle of coaching. Leah handles the school drop-off most days since her office is closer to the kids' school. She's always been the more organized one. The calendar on the fridge has stickers, reminders, color-coded events. I swear, if it ever went missing, the whole house would fall apart. She works part-time now, about 30 hours a week at a local nonprofit that helps place at-risk youth in job training programs. It's not glamorous work, but she believes in it. And honestly, she's good at what she does. People listen to her. She has this way of commanding attention without being loud. At home, she runs things the same way. She likes things neat, efficient. Schedules matter. Meal plans matter. She's not harsh, just structured. Me? I play it looser. I've always been more of a figure-it-out-as-we-go kind of person, but I think that's part of what works between us. She's the framework. I'm the filler. Evenings are my favorite part of the day. I get home from work around 5:30, And for that hour before bedtime, the house is loud and alive. Kids running around, Leah trying to herd them toward pajamas, dinner being reheated or plated up. Sometimes she'll sit at the table with her laptop while I handle the dishes. We talk in short bursts, passing comments about work or the kids, or that random neighbor who still doesn't bring his trash cans in until Thursday. It's not passionate, movie script love, but there's warmth in it. Familiarity. We know each other's rhythms, when she needs quiet, when I need space. We don't do big romantic gestures anymore, but she still brings home my favorite snacks when she runs errands. I still warm up her coffee if she forgets about it in the microwave. It's those kinds of things. The ones that build over time like a secret language between two people who've really lived together. On weekends, we alternate between house projects and family outings. We're slowly trying to redo the backyard. Leah wants a vegetable garden, and I've been promising to build raised beds for months. We'll get there eventually. Sometimes we'll take the kids to the park, or out for ice cream, or just let them run wild in the yard while we sit on the porch with coffee. There are moments where I look at her across the room, or in the rearview mirror with the kids in the back seat, and I feel that quiet kind of happiness, the type that doesn't shout, but just is. That's the life we built. Not perfect, but ours. If I had to describe our relationship in one word, it'd be reliable. Not in a boring way, but in that kind of dependable, familiar, we've been through it kind of way. Leah and I were never one of those couples who needed constant attention or drama to feel connected. We were always better at the quiet stuff. The unspoken teamwork. The, you grab the milk, I'll check out sort of rhythm. I think that's why we worked so well. We never tried to change each other. We kind of found our groove early on and just built around it. Even after the kids came, and the sleep deprivation and the stress and the never-ending laundry hit us like a freight train, we were still us. A bit more tired, sure. A little less spontaneous. But still laughing at the same dumb inside jokes. Still making time for each other. Even if that just meant watching Netflix with her feet in my lap and the baby monitor on the coffee table. Leah's always had this dry, sharp sense of humor. When we were first dating, she had this running bit where she'd pretend to be way more high maintenance than she actually was, demanding only sparkling water with 2 ice cubes, stuff like that. Now she mostly uses that sarcasm on the kids. Noah eats it up. Ella mimics her, which is dangerous, because a 3-year-old pretending to be a diva is both hilarious and mildly terrifying. Parenting with Leah has been surprisingly easy. Not the parenting part itself. That's hard as hell. But the with her part. We rarely argued over discipline or routines. We kind of naturally fell into this good cop, realistic cop pattern. She's more structured, I'm more relaxed, and the kids get a balance that works. I've always admired how calm she stays under pressure. Even when Ella decided to cut her own bangs the day before family photos, Leah just took a deep breath and said, "We'll call it a creative phase." We've had our milestones, of course, anniversaries, first steps, new jobs, broken cars, late-night ER visits. But it's the in-between stuff that sticks with me most. Like the way she hums when she's folding laundry. The way she cradles her coffee like it's the only thing keeping her upright in the morning. The little dance she does when she thinks no one's looking and a good song comes on while she's making dinner. She still wears the same old hoodie I gave her in college. It's threadbare now, the cuffs stretched out, but it's her favorite. She throws it on when she's cold or tired or just needs a little comfort. I don't even remember when I stopped wearing it, probably around the time we got married. But seeing her in it still makes me feel like we're 20-something and broke again, trying to figure out how to split rent and still afford takeout on Fridays. We've been through enough together that I stopped questioning where we stood a long time ago. I always figured that as long as we kept showing up, kept laughing, kept being us, we'd be fine. And up until recently, I had no reason to believe otherwise. I don't know exactly when the feeling started. I wish I could point to one moment, a fight, a comment, some dramatic clue, but it wasn't like that. It came on slowly, like a draft from a cracked window you don't notice at first. Just this quiet shift in the air between us. At first, I chalked it up to stress. We were both working more. The kids were in that phase where they seemed to conspire to wake up at different hours of the night, like they're trying to tag team us into madness. Leah had just started leading a new project at work, some mentorship program she was really passionate about, and it meant more meetings, more emails, more evenings where she stayed late. I didn't question it. Not then. But there were little things. Her phone, for one. She used to leave it lying around the house: kitchen counter, bedside table, bathroom sink. Now it was always either in her pocket or flipped screen down, on silent. I didn't think much of it at first. We've always had a pretty open relationship when it came to stuff like that. I know her passcode, she knows mine. We never really had anything to hide. But one night, this is what stuck with me. I was putting Ella to bed, and when I came back downstairs, Leah was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, smiling. Like, smiling. Not scrolling idly or watching a funny video. It was that kind of smile you save for a private joke. A person. When she saw me, she tucked the phone to her side like it was nothing and asked if I wanted tea. I said no. She went to the kitchen, and I just sat there, wondering who was on the other end of that message. I'm not proud of how my mind started working after that. You start noticing everything once doubt creeps in. The longer showers. The extra effort with her appearance, even on days she said she was just working from home. The times I'd ask how her day was and she'd give me that vague same old kind of answer, even though I could feel something different in her energy. One night, while we were folding laundry, I made some offhand comment about how much time she was spending on her phone lately. Nothing accusatory, just a wow, must be some group chat you're in. She didn't even look up. Just kind of laughed and said, you know how it is with work stuff. But it didn't feel like work stuff. I know her work friends. I know how she talks about them. And this, whatever it was, didn't have that same tone. I didn't say anything more. I'm not the type to snoop. At least, I never used to be. But that night, I laid in bed next to her while she slept, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt like there was a wall between us I hadn't built. Something was off. And whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was starting to wonder if Leah was hiding something from me. It's amazing how quickly your own home can start to feel unfamiliar. Nothing had changed, really, not on the surface. The kids were still their usual selves, loud and sweet and exhausting. The dishes still piled up in the sink. The calendar on the fridge still overflowed with scribbles and sticky notes. But Leah felt gone. Not physically, she was there, going through the motions, but her attention, her warmth, her spark, it wasn't directed at me anymore. It's hard to explain without sounding paranoid. I kept telling myself I was reading too much into it. People change. People get tired. I mean, we've been together more than a decade. Maybe this was just one of those quiet slumps no one warns you about. But then again, she was smiling at her phone a lot more than she smiled at me lately. She used to text me throughout the day. Just small things, pictures of the kids, updates from work, dumb memes. Nothing groundbreaking, just enough to remind me that we were connected, that we were in this life together. Now, I'd maybe get a thumbs up to a message I sent. Sometimes not even that. When I brought it up, casually, like I didn't care as much as I did, she told me I was being sensitive. I've just been swamped, she said, brushing past it. You're making something out of nothing. She always said that when she wanted a conversation to end. Still, I kept seeing things. Noticing. One evening, we had dinner after the kids went down. Just the two of us. I made pasta. I lit a candle, even. Tried to create a quiet moment. She picked at her food, distracted. Her phone buzzed twice while we were eating, and each time, she glanced down at it, then turned it over, face down. No explanation. No, sorry, it's work. Nothing. Just silence. I watched her fork scrape the plate like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Later that night, when she was in the shower, I opened her laptop. I know. I hate that I even did it. But I couldn't help myself. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, just some thread to pull, some proof I wasn't crazy. But her browser history was spotless. Too spotless. No social media, no message history, no work docs. Like it had been scrubbed. And that's when the idea started to form. She's hiding something. The worst part? I couldn't bring myself to confront her. Not yet. Not without something real. The doubt was eating away at me, sure, but what if I was wrong? What if this was just distance, not deception? That night, I laid awake next to her, just watching the ceiling, counting the seconds between her breaths. I reached over at one point and touched her back lightly, just to see if she'd stir. She didn't. In that stillness, I realized something chilling. I knew her body, her habits, her moods. I knew the shape of her laughter and the cadence of her footsteps in the hallway. But right now, I didn't know her at all. And that scared the hell out of me. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from pretending everything is fine when your gut is screaming otherwise. That's the space I've been living in. Every day feels like walking across thin ice. Leah hasn't changed anything drastically, not in the way most people probably picture when they think of someone hiding something. She still kisses the kids goodnight. She still folds laundry while watching old crime shows. She still says, "Love you," when I leave for work, but her eyes don't follow me the way they used to. It's the subtle shifts that gnaw at you. Last weekend, she said she was going to a friend's place, Natalie, from work. Nothing out of the ordinary. They used to hang out from time to time. But when she said it, she didn't meet my eyes. She was halfway out the door before I even asked what time she'd be back. "Not too late," she said. It was almost midnight when she walked back in. She looked flushed. Not drunk, not messy. Just overly put together, in that way where you can tell someone was trying to impress someone. Her lipstick was fresher than it should have been, and her perfume still clung to her like she'd just reapplied it. When I asked if everything was okay, she smiled too quickly. "Yeah, of course." "Why?" I shrugged. "You're home late." She laughed. We lost track of time. Talked about everything and nothing. You know how it is. But I didn't. Not really. Not anymore. I started watching her more closely after that. Nothing obvious, just little things. How fast she'd swipe her phone screen away when I walked by. The way she'd zone out in the middle of a conversation, like her mind was somewhere else. Or with someone else. Earlier this week, I came home early. Leah was sitting at the dining table, phone propped up against a mug, smiling at it, head tilted slightly like she was listening. I couldn't hear anything. When she saw me, she startled, then fumbled to shut the screen off before saying, "Oh, just a video from Natalie." I didn't ask questions. I just nodded and walked past, pretending I didn't notice how fast she closed her apps. But that moment stuck with me all night. You start questioning everything when your trust erodes. Was she really with Natalie last weekend? Was that actually her coworker on the phone? Why does she suddenly care how she looks every time she leaves the house? And how long has this been going on? But here's the thing. I had nothing. No screenshots. No names. No concrete reason to blow everything up. Just a tightness in my chest and a voice in my head saying, "She's not yours the way she used to be." I tried to talk to her again. Not directly. Just to reach out. I told her I missed her. That we should get a babysitter soon and do a date night. Just us. She smiled, but it didn't touch her eyes. "Things are just crazy right now," she said. "Work's been a lot." And that was it. No follow-up. No softness. No return of the effort. Just distance. I feel like I'm living with someone who's halfway out the door, and I'm the only one pretending she isn't. It's the worst kind of waiting game. I'm not even sure what I'm waiting for anymore. A confession? A slip-up? Something to finally make this real? Because right now, I'm stuck in this unbearable in-between. Suspicion tightening around my neck like a noose. And I don't know how much longer I can hold still. I wasn't planning to check her phone. Honestly, I'd sworn to myself I wouldn't stoop to that. For weeks, I'd been walking this razor's edge between trust and suspicion, telling myself that if I crossed that line, if I went looking, I'd be no better than someone chasing shadows. But there's only so long you can live with doubt scratching at your ribs. It happened on a Tuesday night. Leah had fallen asleep early on the couch. We'd barely spoken that evening, just a few short exchanges over dinner, then silence. She said she had a headache and curled up under a throw blanket while I put the kids to bed. I came downstairs later and found her there, sound asleep. Her phone was still in her hand, half slipped between the cushions. Unlocked. Notifications lighting up the screen. I stared at it for a long time. I told myself I was just going to look at the home screen. Just a glance. But then I saw the name. It wasn't a man's name, it was a woman's. Or at least it was supposed to be. Kara. But I don't know anyone named Kara who sends my wife late-night messages that start with, "Miss you already." I opened the thread. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. The entire chat history was there, or what was left of it. Most of it had been deleted, but the few fragments still visible were enough to stop my breath. "I can't wait till the next time. You smelled so good today. Still on my sheets. Be careful tonight." He's not dumb. My vision blurred. I don't know if it was from rage or heartbreak. Maybe both. I kept scrolling, numb and mechanical, like if I could just find one message that made this all make sense, I could keep from falling apart. There was one that gutted me completely. "He's asleep. I wish it was you in bed with me instead." It was sent on a night I remember clearly. I'd stayed up late grading some reports for work while she said she was exhausted and went to bed early. She was texting him from our bed. I put the phone down and just sat there. The house was silent. You could hear the fridge humming. Leah shifted a little in her sleep, completely unaware of the storm that had detonated inside me. It's a strange thing, finding out. There's this brief, bitter second where everything makes sense. All the late nights, the sudden secrecy, the emotional distance. Like flipping a switch and realizing you weren't crazy after all, you were just being lied to. And then the devastation hits. The floor disappears. Your stomach drops. Every memory rewrites itself in real time. The woman I'd built a life with, raised 2 kids with, kissed goodnight for the past 8 years, she wasn't mine the way I thought she was. Not anymore. I looked at her, sleeping peacefully on the couch, and felt a rage so quiet it scared me. I didn't wake her. I didn't scream. I didn't say a word. I just sat there in that heavy silence, holding the weight of what I now knew. And right then, I made a decision. She betrayed me in the dark, but I was going to leave her in the light. The morning after I read those messages, everything moved with a strange, surreal stillness. She stirred beside me like nothing had changed, not knowing that everything had. There was a calmness in the way she moved through her routine, pouring her coffee, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, checking her phone, the same phone that had burned my hands the night before. She left the house without a second glance, without the faintest idea that I knew, that I had seen everything. And I let her walk out the door, just like that. I had already made the decision before the sun had even fully risen. There was no point in confrontation. I didn't want tears, or denials, or that fake remorse that only shows up after someone's caught. I didn't want to hear her try to reframe what I already knew was deliberate. There was no accident, no misunderstanding. There was intent, repetition, a pattern, and that was enough for me. I had nothing more to say, but I wasn't staying, and I wasn't going to let her be the one to decide how this ended. That day was a blur of motion that, somehow, I remember with perfect clarity. I called in sick. I picked the kids up early from school with a fabricated excuse that felt natural leaving my mouth. They were excited when I told them we were going on a little trip, and I was glad for their smiles. They didn't need to know what this really was, not yet. I had already arranged the move in silence, found a rental that was available immediately, and signed the lease during a hurried midday meeting with a tired landlord who didn't ask questions. I paid the deposit and the first month's rent on the spot. He handed me the keys, and just like that, I had a new address. Back at the house, the place we'd built a life in, I moved like a ghost through the rooms. I packed the kids' things first. Only what was essential: clothes, comfort items, their favorite books. Then my own. I didn't take anything of hers. No photos, no keepsakes, not even the mug she always used, or the hoodie I once loved seeing her wear. I left behind our wedding photo, still hanging over the mantel, untouched. I wanted her to see that. I wanted her to see everything still in its place, except us. The house felt hollow as I moved through it, even though nothing had physically changed. I left it spotless. Made the beds. Put the dishes away. Took the garbage out. It almost looked like we'd never existed there. Only the empty closets and the silence would give it away. I placed one thing on the kitchen counter before I left, a single old postcard we'd picked up on some long-forgotten trip. On the back, I scrawled a few lines. Not to explain. Not to justify. Just to make it clear that I knew. And that I was gone. By the time she would come home, the house would be empty. She would open the door expecting the normal rhythm of our evenings, kids running around, the TV on low, dinner smells in the air. Instead, she would walk into quiet. The absence would be deafening, and the postcard would be waiting. We drove to the new place just as the sun was starting to set. The kids fell asleep in their car seats, their heads leaning against the windows as we pulled into the unfamiliar driveway. The house was smaller, simpler, quieter. It smelled like new beginnings and something close to peace. I carried them inside one by one, laid them down on a makeshift bed of pillows and blankets, and sat in the dim light of the living room for a long time after that. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was past anger. What I felt was colder than that. Cleaner. I felt the ground underneath me again, after weeks of walking on emotional quicksand. I didn't need her explanations. I didn't want her apologies. All I wanted was distance. And for the first time since that slow unraveling began, I finally had it. I don't know what expression she wore when she opened the front door. I can only imagine the confusion creeping into her face, the way she probably paused in the entryway expecting to hear the kids, maybe even looked around for the soft clatter of dinner being made or the sound of my footsteps upstairs. Instead, she would have stepped into silence. The kind that doesn't just feel empty, but abandoned. She would have noticed the details first. The coat rack bare. The kids' shoes missing from the hallway. Maybe the fridge was just a little too empty, the laundry basket gone from the corner. And then the realization would have come, slow and sinking. This wasn't a mistake or a fluke. We hadn't just gone out for a few hours. We were gone. She would have found the postcard on the counter soon after. Just a few words. No screaming. No accusations. No need for explanation. The message was clear. She'd crossed a line, and I had quietly walked away while she wasn't looking. She tried calling within the hour. My old phone buzzed in the kitchen drawer where I'd left it, screen lighting up in a dark, quiet house. She called again. And again. Each missed call another knot twisting tighter in her chest, I'm sure. I didn't see any of them. I didn't want to. I was already past that point. What she hadn't yet realized, but would soon enough, was that she no longer had a way to reach me. I had changed everything, new number, new locks, new address. I had built a wall of silence between us, not out of spite, but out of necessity. She made her choice in secret, and now I had made mine in the open. And unlike her, I wouldn't lie about what I'd done. I wouldn't beg to be understood. Eventually, she found another way. She texted my brother, my best friend, even reached out to one of the parents from Noah's school. I heard about all of it secondhand. All of them told her the same thing, that I was safe, that the kids were with me, and that she should leave me alone. She didn't take the hint. The messages kept coming, first questions, then apologies, then denial. She was trying every angle, trying to get ahead of the story, trying to regain control. That's when she made the mistake of calling my new number. I let it ring once, then picked up. My voice was steady when I spoke, sharper than she was used to. I told her once, and only once, that if she ever contacted me again, I would make sure every member of her family knew exactly what she had done. Not just mine. Hers. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten anything else. I didn't tell her how broken I was, how I hadn't slept in days, or how hard it had been explaining to Noah that we were just staying somewhere new for a while. I didn't say how much it destroyed me to pack up our entire life while pretending I was okay. I just gave her one boundary. And I ended the call. She hasn't tried again since. Whether it's fear, guilt, or the slow, dawning realization that this wasn't a temporary tantrum, I don't know. Maybe she's finally understanding that actions carry weight. That there's no amount of tears or excuses that can glue back the kind of trust she shattered. That some doors, once closed, don't open again. I haven't cried since the night I found out. I don't know if I'm still in shock, or if there's just nothing left to wring out of me. What I feel now is a kind of stillness. Not peace, no, not yet. But silence. And right now, that's enough. The first few days after the move were surreal in a way I hadn't anticipated. I thought I'd feel relief. Maybe even a kind of dark satisfaction. Instead, everything felt oddly weightless, like I'd untethered myself from something that had been holding me to the ground for years. And not in a freeing way, more like I was floating above my life, watching it unravel in slow motion without quite being able to touch any of it. The kids adjusted faster than I did. Children are resilient like that. They asked a few questions about Mom, about the old house, about why we were suddenly sleeping somewhere new, but I kept the answers gentle. I told them we were just starting a new chapter, that sometimes grown-ups make hard choices, that nothing had changed between us, that I was still here, always, and that I wasn't going anywhere. I told them enough to feel safe, not enough to carry the weight of their mother's betrayal. At night, after they were asleep, I sat in the quiet of the new house, staring at bare walls and unpacked boxes. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to text her out of habit, some reflex left over from the man I was before I knew. And each time, I'd feel that sick twist in my chest, remembering. I deleted old photos. I cleared out years of messages. Not to erase her, but to make space. I didn't want digital ghosts following me through this. The silence was the hardest part. Not because I missed her voice, but because I was used to it. The background noise of her presence had become so ingrained in my life that without it, the quiet felt unnatural. But over time, that silence began to soften. It didn't feel like absence anymore. It just felt like space. People started to notice, of course. My brother, my coworkers, parents at the school. They didn't ask directly, not at first, but they gave me those looks. The ones people give when they know something is broken but don't want to touch it. Eventually, I gave a few of them the bare bones, just enough to explain why we weren't together anymore, why Leah wasn't around, why I'd suddenly uprooted everything. I didn't give details, not out of shame, but because I was tired. Tired of hearing her name in my own mouth. Tired of stitching together a narrative that didn't make me sound like a fool. It's strange how something can feel both final and unfinished. The house we left behind was still there. Our old routines, Our memories, our laughter in the walls, they all existed somewhere, frozen in time. But I was done living inside those memories. I couldn't afford to. They didn't belong to the man I was now. And Leah, well, I don't know what she's doing. I haven't asked. I don't check. There's nothing left in me that wants to know who she texts now, or where she sleeps, or whether she feels regret in the middle of the night. If she does, she'll carry that on her own. I've carried enough already. What I've realized, slowly, is that betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it reshapes the way you see everything. It sharpens you. And if you're lucky, if you're careful, it doesn't harden you. It just clears away the illusions. I'm not healed. I won't pretend I am. But I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm cooking meals. I'm reading bedtime stories. I'm rebuilding something real this time, even if I'm doing it alone. The truth is, I don't miss her. What I miss is who I thought she was. And now that I know better, I can start figuring out who I'm going to be next. Some things don't break with a crash. They just fall apart quietly, like a book left out in the rain, pages curling in on themselves, words bleeding until you can't make out what the story was supposed to be. That's what our marriage felt like in the end. Not a dramatic collapse, but a slow erasure. By the time I walked away, there was barely anything left of us worth salvaging. And that was the hardest truth to face, not the betrayal itself, but the realization that I hadn't lost something solid. I'd lost the illusion of it. Weeks have passed now. Maybe a month. I've stopped keeping track. The kids are adjusting more each day. Ella's learning how to fall asleep in her new room without asking where her mother is. Noah's drawing pictures of our new house. He always includes a sun in the corner, a bright yellow smear with a smiley face. I cling to things like that. They remind me that pain doesn't have to pass through them the way it passed through me. Leah hasn't contacted me again. Not directly. I heard through someone that she's still trying to spin the story, that I overreacted, that things weren't that serious, that she was just confused. But I've stayed silent. Not out of weakness. Not because I don't have the words. But because I finally understand that nothing I could say would make her accountable. Some people live in a version of the truth that suits them, and there's no dragging them out of it. The people who matter, the ones who know me, who saw the way I carried that marriage, who watched me break and rebuild, they know enough. I've told the truth where it counted, and I've kept my dignity intact. That matters more to me now than being understood. I've started running again. I cook dinner with the kids every night and let them help, even when it makes a mess. I've begun reading more books I never had the time for before. Some nights I sit outside in the backyard with a cup of coffee after they're asleep, just breathing in the silence. That used to be the hardest part, the quiet. Now it feels like something sacred. Mine. There are moments I still feel it. This aching disbelief that someone I loved, someone I built a home and a life with, could reduce all of that to a secret smile at a screen and a handful of lies. But those moments pass. They always pass. And when they do, they leave me with something stronger than they took. I've learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to keep moving even when the weight still lingers. It means building something new, not out of spite or survival, but because you can, because you must. I'm not the man I was before all this. And thank God for that. That man loved blindly, trusted fully, gave without asking whether he was receiving anything in return. I don't hate him, but I've outgrown him. Now, I love with eyes open. I protect my peace like it's something I earned. Because it is. If you're reading this and you're in that place, the before, the breaking, the storm, I'll tell you what no one told me. You can leave. You can rebuild. You don't need their permission. You don't need a perfect excuse. You just need to decide that your pain is real enough. And your peace matters more. That's what I did. And this is me, standing in the aftermath, not with bitterness, but with both feet planted in the present. Not looking back.